eternity to eternity, your kingdom will never reign, 'cause you are the one God, Jesus, and we bear your name. And the rulers, from the rulers north to the rulers south, to the kingdoms east and west, they will bow before you. Your lordship confess. Your ocean, sing out. Your oceans clap their hands. Your trees, they wave their branches. Your rivers run with rain. All creation will praise. Lord, we delight in your rule. Your kingdom's advancing. Lord, we are moving with you. Lord, we delight in your reign. Creation will praise. Lord, we exalt your great name. From eternity to eternity, your kingdom will ever reign, 'cause you are the one God, Jesus, and we bear your name. On the rulers north to the rulers south, to the kingdoms east and west, they will bow before you. Your lordship confess. Your oceans clap their hands. Your trees, they wave their branches. Your rivers run with praise. All creation will praise. Lord, we delight in your rule. Your kingdom's advancing. Lord, we are moving with you. Lord, we delight in your reign. Creation will praise. Lord, we exalt your reign. Lord, we delight in your rule. Your kingdom's advancing. Lord, we are moving with you. Lord, we delight in your reign. Creation will praise you. Lord, we exalt your great name. We exalt you. We are moving with you, Lord. Yes, we are moving with you. Worthy are you. We delight in your room. Worthy are you. Worthy are you, Jesus. Bless you, Lord. Bless you this morning.
So a question, who is the salt of the earth? Okay, would you say you are salty today? Would you say you taste good? Would you say you put a little spice in life? Or is your salt all brown and wet, run over, it's no good for nothing? See, we are the salt of the earth, regardless of whether we're a good salt or a bad salt. But if we're bad salt, it basically means we have decided not to salt people through our lives. And our church, the Christian church, was born with the disciples saying, go into all the world and make disciples of all nations, all ethnicities. And they were to be full of, you're the salt of the earth. I'll come to the second one in a minute. We talked about salt last week, and there are 14,000 uses for salt. Give me 5.
Preservation.
Makes food taste better.
Preservation.
Preservative. What?
Yeah. Yep.
Disinfects. Healing. Gets rid of rust. What else I got in here? There's so many things. Puts out grease fires. Helps get rid of poison ivy.
Melts road ice.
Melts road ice. It's good for earaches. Did you know that? Seals, cracks. Removes spots from clothes. I need that one. And I mentioned it helps ice cream freeze.
Come on. Preach that. Preach that one.
But as they studied it, and historically salt, and sometimes in human history, salt was as valuable as gold. Because you couldn't keep your meat without salt. It was just incredible. If you were going on a trip anywhere, you had to have salt to protect your food and preserve. So you and I are a preservative of what? What are we trying to preserve? How about the faith once handed down to all of us? The reason you're fighting in the arena is because you're wanting to, in your generation, share your love of Christ where you're planted in a way that has salt in it. I've been at it a long time, and I've been accosted by Christians at times that didn't know I was a Christian. And they witnessed to me. Their witness was not much of a witness. It was a machine gun of scriptures. Did you know in John 3:16 it said da, 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 and somehow they think that's going to change my life. No, what changes your life is getting down, drawing something in the sand nobody understands, and said, "You that without sin cast the first stone." Jesus didn't go around banging people over the head in order to rope them into the kingdom. And neither should we. So we are salt. And I don't like it when I become unsavory. I actually prayed before church today because I've been very mad about what's happened overseas to our nation and those people that are so vulnerable. It hurts me as a veteran. People have called me and said, "What do you think of this?" And I've been across, hurt and anger go hand in hand. And I confess, I have been very angry. Angry in sin, not angry in sin not. I got right up on the border of it. And I've asked God, all I want is your heart. I don't want to be like Moses who hit the rock when he said, "Speak to the rock." We always want to represent God, not our own sense of self-righteousness. But I feel like your prayers this morning, mine, and the ongoing prayers are going to be incredible. I don't know the danger that they're in more than that I would say they are in mortal danger. And it's very, very challenging to extricate people from where they are. These guys right down the road, 40 miles down the road, the United States Marine Corps, they're over there right now. They're 19 years old. And they're sitting on a wall and people are screaming and they're trying. They probably went to El Toro High School a year and a half ago. We got to pray for them and hold them up. And also know that when things happen, when my grandson had his stroke and tumor, I don't know why or how, but prayers came in from all over the world. People I didn't even know. Fundraisers came. I go down the street and I see a fundraiser for Kate. I don't even know the people. It was so much bigger than anything I could generate. It was not generated out of my life or it was just something that God did. But I did think that it was, if you sow, you reap. There's been a lot of prayers sown in the last 40 years. And we reaped something, both within our church and out there, and I believe it made an eternal difference. So you're the salt of the earth. We've been prepared for good works. We were saved by grace through faith, and not of ourselves, lest we boast. So God had good works prepared for you already. Unfortunately, sometimes Christians think that good works is the way to get to heaven. And Paul he said, "O foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you? That which you begin in the Spirit, are you trying to perfect in the flesh?" No, the good works follow our salvation. We come to Christ, and then He leads and directs us, and the good works come out of it as a byproduct. Every sacrifice in the Old Testament was with salt. It was called the covenant of salt, when you sat down and made an agreement, and it was binding. If salt loses its savor, it has no value. It's good for nothing but to be thrown out and trampled under the foot of men. If the church reneges on its responsibility to be the real deal, it's going to take the real deal in this age. Tell me how many would rather, raise your hand if you'd like Christianity light this morning. Come on, you're not telling the truth. I know you want Christianity light. I had someone once say, all I want to do is be saved. Leave me alone. All I want to do is be saved. Leave me alone. Christianity light, what that means is you made a prayer one time, invited Jesus into your heart, but then the rest of your life, God's in the margins. Everything else is the center of the center. And His whole message is, abide in me. I'm the center of the center. If you're my friends, if you do what I ask you, what I command you. So I urge you, brethren, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies a living and holy sacrifice. That's what it is when we come to Christ. He's made the ultimate sacrifice, and in turn, He's asking us to sacrifice, which is your spiritual service of worship. And don't be conformed to this world. I always tell the teenagers here this morning, or junior high, the world is working overtime to conform you into their image of what they want you to be. And you have to be able to discern and know the difference. And believe me, the devil's not waiting until you're 19 to do this. He'll start at 12. He'll even start at 8 with some people. Present yourselves to God. Don't be conformed, shaped into its mold, but be transformed. Be like the Greek word is metamorpho, where we get metamorphosis. We're being transformed. Not just reformed, but transformed. By the renewing, making our minds new, that you may prove what the will of God is, that which is good and acceptable and perfect. So I want to drive that home, even in your prayers. Lord, I know I'm the salt of the earth, but I don't feel too salty. In fact, I like that quote that Pastor Kevin said last week. I love the world, I just don't like people. All right, salted. The second thing is you're the light of the world. You may feel like your light's flickering or failing at times. It really doesn't matter what you feel. Your feelings have nothing to do with reality. I'm telling you right now, you're the light of the world. I don't care if you don't feel like the light of the world. I don't care if you lost your temper last night, you've been a jerk, you haven't said you're sorry to your wife, you're lukewarm in your faith. I don't care about any of that. You are the light of the world. God has invested it through the cross, died for you, so that you would do something with your life that would shine a light, that the love of Christ would be shed abroad in your heart to somebody else. Amen. You're the light of the world. We live in a far too over-therapeutic culture. I've done a lot of counseling. I've been counseled. I believe in marriage counseling. I believe in counseling when you're in a tough spot. That's really a brother coming next to you, So I'm not knocking. I am knocking Sigmund Freud. I will knock Freud. I will knock Jung. I will knock B.F. Skinner. I will knock all these psychologists that have the answer for your life. I will knock Dr. Spock. He is not the answer to childbearing. Did you ever, people that followed Dr. Spock when we were young, he was a pediatrician writer. Not the one on Star Trek, by the way. He had all these answers on what you do with the babies and what you do with this. But no one bothers to check out his own family. I mean, these people that want to change your life and my life, that people go to because they can speak well or they can envision things and they're brilliant, their own personal life so often is a nightmare. The life we want to follow is the life of a disciple. We want to be discipled in Christ and grow in our faith. So we're light. Let your light shine. I said that last week that if there was no Christians in the world, there'd be total darkness. I can promise you this. I don't know it. I might not ever have an answer. But right now, in those remote villages in Afghanistan, those house churches, those Christians, whether they're groups of 10 or 30 that don't speak English, some of them probably can't read. Do you know that 1.2 billion people in the world cannot read? But they get the gospel anyway through oral gospel. There are whole ministries committed to sharing the gospel orally where people can't read and sharing it orally in their language and tongue. Those people that are doing that took their faith seriously and felt called to do it. Not everyone's called to do it that way. Each of our callings is unique. How many uses of salt do we know of at least? 14,000. Okay, don't compare ourselves by ourselves with other people. The Bible says we're without understanding. Sometimes I think the only gifts people think they can have is either to be a preacher or a singer. I'm telling you, I think that, and an usher, maybe. All right, so salt and light. It's important to recognize that we've been transferred from the kingdom of darkness into the kingdom of light. It's in Colossians. You've actually been qualified by God. You have papers. Why should I do this? Oh, you have been, he sees it on your heart. Through the blood of Christ, you have been transferred out of this dark kingdom that owns you. The kingdom that said there's no rules. You can sleep with who you want to sleep with. You can be what you want to be. You can do what you want to do to your personal advantage in that kingdom. It doesn't matter. There are no rules there. Because it's the kingdom of Satan, who is a liar and a thief, a robber and a murderer. And Jesus said he's the G, small g, God of this world, deceiving people. Do you think Satan says, well, you guys are already Christians, so he doesn't want to mess with you? He'd rather go after... No, he wants to turn us into a bunch of Pharisees. He wants to turn us into goody two-shoes. He wants to turn us into an innocuous something. I so much appreciate the blessing of our church that we've had over the years with missions to go to all these different countries. It's slowed down a bit because of COVID and all that. I often think of John and Erica, the people that they met along the way in places like Tibet, Jordan, these countries that we see sometimes on TV, they're dangerous places. It's mostly Muslim or it's mostly Buddhist. When you were in Tibet, did most of the people have two eyes?
We never in Tibet. We were in Nepal, though.
Nepal,
But yes, they all had two eyes. For
yeah.
sure.
How about a nose?
Yep.
How about a mouth?
Yes.
Ears? Hair? 2 arms? 2 legs? Did the mothers love their children? Did the fathers love their children? Yeah, but they're not like us. They're so different. See, this gospel is not just for Mission Viejo. And not just for the West. It didn't even begin in the West. It began in the East. We got a big thing in front of us. I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be able to plan how to do it. I just think I want to be ready when His plan unfolds. What God's doing in the earth today. The Lord is my light and my salvation. I shall not fear. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet, a light unto my path. Great song. Who knows that song? Who'll sing it out with me? Psalm 105, correct.
Psalm 119, verse 105.
Let's try it. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. Is it? There's a lot of other lamps out there. This is the best one going. Because it's true. Thy word is true. Truth. Sanctify me in truth. So I want to go back. The last part of what I read last week is in verse 20. And he says, For I say to you that unless your righteousness surpasses that of the scribes and the Pharisees, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. That's a very hard statement. How many of you are aware that sometimes Jesus wasn't nice? Did anybody know that? In fact, he wasn't wrong, but he wasn't always nice. I want to read here's what he thinks of Pharisees. Now, a Pharisee, before I get there, I'll just tell you, a Pharisee was a religious leader, the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And he tells us that our righteousness has to exceed theirs. Did you know that the Pharisees memorized the Psalms? How many of you have memorized all 150 Psalms? They're very holy people. Powerful statement. They were respected. The Sadducees were about the first 5 books. The Pharisees believed the entire Old Testament and resurrection from the dead. The issue with them was that they were hypocritical and demanded of others to live by standards that they themselves did not live by. They believed in salvation was obeying the law in perfect obedience. They obsessed over legal interpretations and traditions. Their faith has no forgiveness. You blow it, you're out. Their main criteria was to look good more than obeying God. They relied on their own logic while placing little importance on faith and love. We have to fight that in our own selves. It's the control of religion over our life. The putting of our expectations on others without being so aware of the demands God may be putting on us. How many here are what I would call blame shifters? Come on. Let me see a little finger. Got one there. Can I see another hand? Another blame shifter. You know, blame shifter is when it's not your fault. It's the person's fault. How about when your wife approaches you with something and her timing's off? You know, why are you talking to me about it now? This is time you blame me. How about you told me to be home an hour ago and you're late? Blame shifter. It's there, isn't it? What did Adam do to Eve? The woman that you gave me is the reason I sinned. Not that I, who was the firstborn man in perfect harmony with nature and innocent in all ways, and you had spoken directly to me to tell me not to eat this. And I told Eve about it. Eve didn't listen to me. Then when she was eating, she says, "Come on, Adam, it's good." So what was I supposed to do? I went ahead and ate. It's not my fault, it's her fault. So the very gift that God gave to him, he blamed the gift on his situation. Then Eve, she just kind of wiggled out of it too. She said, the devil made me do it. The devil didn't make her do it. The devil's crafty. You all know the story of Eve. Sometimes when you read it, you say, how did that happen? Because you're thinking differently. I do too. It's like we think, how can a snake talk? Okay, first of all, what were the animals like before the fall of man? He called them all by name. Is it possible that there was another level of communication? Someone once said to me, how far has man fallen? We don't even know how far we've fallen from where we were. And it's possible that it could have been a beautiful serpent, not necessarily a creepy snake. And he comes up and says, Eve, how you doing? Pretty good. Look at this place. It's fantastic. I said, yeah, I know. It is, man, this is nice. Man, God knows how to throw a party, doesn't he? He said, this is really good. He said, oh, by the way, I was wondering about something. I noticed you're not eating from this tree. How come? Oh, because we're not allowed to eat from that one or even touch it. What? Who told you that? Well, I got it from Adam, but Adam heard it from God, and so we're not even allowed to touch it. Now, God never said not to touch it. He said not to eat it. She's already defensive. And he goes, really? God told you God's that way? Huh. I don't want to blow your bubble, but I want you to know something. He knows that if you eat, you're going to be like God. I know that. He knows that. And God's a wonderful God. He does a lot of wonderful things. But on this one, what does the enemy do? He always appeals to your self-interest. Always. Next time something's happened in your life, I meet many people in the crux of decision makings, and I always want to say, what part of this is picking up your cross and denying yourself? We want to know what God's saying to us. And the enemy comes as an angel of light. There's light again. So there's a false light. A light where things happen. A woman called me one time that had a beautiful marriage, 4 wonderful kids, and unfortunately her husband died, and they were like the perfect family in the church. And everybody, the kind of family that, geez, you got such a great family. And then when he died, everything changed. He was in his late 50s probably. And she met a guy that started courting her. How many have ever met a guy? There's men, and then there's a guy. A handsome guy. And they got along good. They went to Catalina. They did this and that. The entire family didn't feel good about it. But yeah, I don't want to be alone the rest of my life. When we get in that place of our need trumping God's way, we're very vulnerable. She married this guy anyway, to the consternation of her 4 children, who were adults at that point. And it wasn't long before he started beating her. And she wouldn't tell anybody about it because she was so ashamed, because she's a strong believer, but her need took over her belief. You follow me? It's a sad story. And she talked to me. I said, well, I'm so sorry about where are you now? And I just tried to help her pick up the pieces. And she said, I feel like such a fool. But I wouldn't listen to anybody because I wanted my way. And that's where the enemy capitalizes as an angel of light. Guy's a nice guy. He's got a good job. He's handsome. We do things together. We're taking tango lessons. It couldn't be any better. Tango? I don't know where that came from. When you get tangled in tango, you just tango on. So we have Phariseeism. So I want to read this little encouragement that Jesus had for the Pharisees in Matthew 23:23. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you tithe mint, dill, and cumin, and you have neglected the weightier provisions of the law, justice and mercy and faithfulness. But these are all the things you should have done without neglecting the others. You blind guides who strain at a gnat and swallow a camel. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you clean the outside of the cup of the dish, but inside they are full of robbery and self-indulgence. You blind Pharisee, first clean the outside of the cup and the dish, so that the outside of it may become clean also. How many of you think they're enjoying the message so far? Really enjoying that message today. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you're like whitewashed tombs, which on the outside appear beautiful, but inside they are full of dead men's bones and all uncleanness. So you too outwardly appear righteous to men, but inwardly you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you build the tombs of the prophets and adorn the monuments of the righteous, and say, if we had been living in those days of our fathers, we would not have been partners with the shedding of blood of the prophets. So you testify against yourselves that you are the sons of those who murdered the prophets. Fill up then the measure of the guilt of your fathers. You serpents, you brood of vipers, how will you escape the sentence of hell? Whew. How many prefer coming to me, all you that are heavy laden, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light? You see, I'll just tell you this. This is for free. If you've already come to Christ, you are incredibly smart. You are incredibly smart because you have chosen the one who knows all things and does all things well. These people were hung up in the belief system and traditions of men. The good news is even some Pharisees got saved. Nicodemus, Joseph of Arimathea, and others. And what I'm talking about, I'm not talking about people, I'm just saying that God's always after who you really are, not what you really project. Same with me. He just wants to be authentic. And I think there are things in life where we are to be reverent. There are weddings. I love a wedding is a time of reverence and awe when you see two come together. I think at funerals at times there's a holiness that goes on. So it's not about holiness. It's about the appearance of holiness. I thought to myself, okay, I'm salt and light. If I'm a Pharisee, am I judgmental? Am I judgmental without, I don't have to apologize for that. Am I legalistic? Do I expect grace in my life but don't give it to others? Am I overly focused on my appearance and what people think of me and my image over honesty and humility? Am I hung up about my position? If they only knew how good I was, they would have promoted me a long time ago. The prestige that comes. Am I an arrogant person? I pray to God that I'm not. But I'm sure arrogance will raise its ugly head in all of us. We got a ways to go. And I'm going to have to close it here. I want to finish next week with one more shot on this theme of salt and light and the Pharisees. And making sure that you and I don't think, well, the Pharisees, their prayer was, thank God that I'm not like other men. What if our prayer is, thank God I'm not like those Pharisees? God's after something in us. It's really real. I just can't even tell you what I'm feeling this morning. If this thing of salt gets in you, in your neighborhood, I mean, you just realize wherever you go, Dudley and I went on a vacation once, and do you feel like the Lord's just blessing us everywhere we go? We'd go someplace, someone would comp us for this, we didn't even know what we were doing. And it was like we'd meet people, we discuss their whole life, and it was like we were on vacation, and just, it happens when the salt is there and when the light is there. My thing is, I want to put my light under the bushel basket. Nobody wants to take it off. So then, she and I fight about that today. I got so mad at Aaron, I had a long plane flight, and Aaron tells the person in front of me, "Well, my dad's a pastor." So for the next 2.5 hours, I had myself unpacking this guy's whole life. And Aaron felt so good about it. Because just like you feel good about it, well, go see Kevin. You've done your part. That's all you have to do. That's why I'm full time. You don't have time for that. Your job's too busy. If I had as much time, I'd do it that way. Yeah, but. All right. So we're going to close. I want to move. Is it okay to have some prayer? You guys?
We know this one. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul, worship Your holy name. Here you go. Sun comes up. The sun comes